take the sedierant for this meeting of the Clydesdale Area Committee held on the 4th of December 2024. So I can see that we have present Councillor Allison, Councillor Barker, Councillor Corbett, Councillor Gowland, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Horsham, Councillor Lambie, Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Logan, Councillor Marsh, Councillor McCallan, Councillor McClyman and Councillor Shearer. There are also a number of officers present. I'll hand back to yourself, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And we've got a full house today, so that's excellent. Thank you very much for coming in, and those who are online. So number one on business is the declarations of interest. Carol, do you have any? Thanks. And does anybody else want to say they have any?
I have the declaration from Councillor Gowland for item 5C, known to applicant. It's a community grant.
Anybody else have any? No? No further declarations? Oh, Julia. Is Julia's? Yeah. Julia Marsh, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a declaration of item 5, 2.11A, the Kirkfield United, on the basis of personal connection to organisers and participants.
Thanks, Councillor Marsh. Okay, so we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 6. They're there for your approval. Are they fine?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. And now we're straight on to item 3, which is the Routes to Work South presentation by Stephen Barr, Chief Executive, and Nicola McNaughton, Deputy Chief Executive. If you'd just like to go ahead, thanks. I believe there's an online presentation, is that correct? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Stephen Barr, Routes to Work South. I'm accompanied by Nicola McNaughton. Nicola's going to take you through some of the detail of our work. For anyone not familiar with Routes to Work South, we deliver a wide range of services on behalf of South Lanarkshire Council. We also generate additional income from, again, a wide range of sources, bringing in additional funding and additional monies for the benefit of South Lanarkshire residents and South Lanarkshire businesses. We are one of only two organisations that are incorporated into the Council, South Lanarkshire Council, the other being South Lanarkshire Leisure. And as an independent charity, as I've said, we deliver a whole range of services, mostly around employability and skills training. Nicola will take you through some of the detail. There is a presentation that should be appearing now. Thank you.
Firstly, thank you for inviting us along today to provide a bit of an overview of Routes to Work South. Routes to Work South have been delivering employability services to the residents of South Lanarkshire for almost 20 years and are committed to alleviating poverty. We do this through the achievement of the key objectives that are highlighted within the slides. As highlighted by Stephen, we are an arm's length organisation of the Council and a registered charity. Our charitable status brings with it many benefits to South Lanarkshire Council, which I will touch on later under added value. As an organisation, we have a clear vision and mission, which is achieved through the delivery of inclusive, person-centred services, ensuring no one is left behind. More specifically, for the members that are in attendance today, that support is provided out of our employability hub within Wellgate in Lanark. As touched on, Routes to Work South has continued to provide significant added value to South Lanarkshire Council and local residents. And as highlighted within the slide, within the last 10 years alone, we've generated over 30 million for the local economy. Within that, we've highlighted probably 5 different statistics. There's a few more that sit behind that, but I would firstly draw your attention to the statistic in the top right-hand corner. Each year we provide savings of £500,000 to South Lanarkshire Council. We do this through the leasing of the CTEC building in Cambuslang. As a registered charity, we benefit from rates relief, and the rateable value of that property is circa £300,000, which would otherwise be payable by South Lanarkshire Council, notwithstanding the running costs that go on top of that. If we focus on the statistic within the middle of the slide, over £9 million has been secured in new and additional funding, benefiting the local residents of South Lanarkshire Council. As highlighted by Stephen, this funding has been secured by Routes to Work South through various organisations, including Job Centre Plus, Skills Development Scotland, Scottish Government and Big Lottery over the years. And this funding is monies that would otherwise not be available to the local authority. Routes to Work South has been making a difference to local people since 2005, and in the last 10 years alone, we have provided support to over 19,000 South Lanarkshire residents. But more impressively is the statistic, in the bottom left-hand corner. Each day, we achieve 3 job starts. That's particularly important as it highlights the impact that Routes to Work South continues to make in the lives we are changing on a daily basis. Routes to Work South's delivery of the services is an integral part of South Lanarkshire Council's local employability partnership, South Lanarkshire Works, and an overview of the different services is provided within the slide. Each programme incorporates a key worker-based delivery model which is designed to support key priority groups and is based on customer need. As you can see from the slide shown now, South Lanarkshire Works incorporates a wide range of training and skills interventions, ranging from volunteering opportunities through to sector-based training, all of which is important in supporting clients in the next stage of their journey into and towards employment. I am aware that you were circulated a link this morning. I had hoped to share with you as part of the presentation a brief video of Cook and Learn. I would actively encourage you to take the opportunity to watch the video. Cook and Learn is a new initiative that we have established this year within our head office in CTEC in Cambuslang. The Cook and Learn initiative comprises 3 distinct elements and provides local people with a positive pathway and access to all of the services available through South Lanarkshire Works that we've just touched on. The 3 distinct elements comprise a community cafe offering employment opportunities, a bespoke training programme, and also a pantry providing subsidised items for families in poverty. Routes to Work services support residents across all 5 stages of the employability pipeline, and that encompasses initial engagement through to skills and training, and most importantly through to sustained employment. It's not just about getting someone a job, it's about helping them stay in a job and make a career. Our adult services are aimed at supporting those residents furthest removed, aged 18 plus, with barriers to employment, and we've taken the opportunity within the presentation to highlight some of those barriers that we cover. Our youth service delivery complements South Lanarkshire Council's internal delivery and combines one-to-one support with group training, whilst also providing participants with access to our dedicated youth hub. What's most important is the shared objectives we share with South Lanarkshire Council. All of our services delivered by Routes to Work South contribute to the achievement of South Lanarkshire Council's strategic plans, including improving school leaver destinations and increasing employment, positively impacting local residents. The future of employability, I think it's important to note that the employability landscape has significantly changed in recent years, and as an organisation we have continued to adapt our service delivery to ensure we continue to meet the needs of local people. Moving forward, that will still require ongoing change, some of which is highlighted within the slide. I'm only going to take the opportunity to focus on a couple of these. The first one being increasing and expanding pathways and routes to work. As I touched on earlier, Cook and Learn is a really good example of this. Because what we're looking to do is engage with people, build confidence, build rapport before introducing them to employability. Similarly, the creation of new and additional services. Again, as a charity, Routes to Work South reinvest any surpluses to support the local residents of South Lanarkshire. We have done this year to create a project called WIN, What I Need in Life, and it's aimed at supporting those people who are economically inactive, so therefore they're not seeking employment, and providing support within their local communities, focused on health and wellbeing, personal development, and starting to encourage them to look at setting longer term goals and aspirations. We're currently delivering that in 2 pilot areas, and our aim is once we can demonstrate the impact of this support, we would look to roll that out to other areas across South Lanarkshire. And finally, I would like to take the opportunity to highlight that I've brought with me today a copy of our recently published 23-24 Annual Impact Report to share with members. That report highlights the positive impact we continue to make to the South Lanarkshire communities. I will certainly pass them on to the Chair for distribution, but we would welcome the opportunity for members to witness firsthand the fantastic work that we are doing at Routes to Work South, and we'd be more than happy to host a visit and let you meet with some of the participants that are benefiting from our services. I would encourage you, following today's meeting, to please reach out to either myself or Stephen. And finally, I would now like to invite any questions.
Thanks very much, Stephen and Nicola. That was an excellent presentation, and it just gives an insight into what you actually do. We see your office in the Wellgate, and people probably don't really know what you do in there and what you do for our community. So I'll ask if anybody has any questions or comments. Eileen?
Thank you very much. I knew your organisation a long time ago, but it was Cambus Lang. Visited, probably, I think it must have been the Provost or something at that time, but I remember being in and out different times. Can I ask, do you engage with other organisations? The reason I'm asking, like I live in Carluke and we have what's the one the council runs? Universal Connection, couldn't think, they're Universal Connections, and we've also got street level, and I know they do a lot of different, getting schools in and working different things like that. So do you liaise between the two?
Yes, a big part of the work that we do and that we have done for many years is establish robust partnership relationships. We look for the opportunity to do partnership working, and as an organisation we recognise that more can be achieved working collaboratively. We do have links with Universal Connections and other local community groups, particularly in the rural area, and we look to, where possible, work together.
Sorry, and then can I also ask, interested, what's the sort of main age groups that you get through? What's your sort of largest main age groups that you would get through your door?
The vast majority of the participants that we work with, apologies, the vast majority of the participants that we work with are aged 18 plus.
Right.
We see a significant amount of those aged 18 to 24, and in recent years we've seen an increase in the 50 plus age group.
Oh, Ralph, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for that report. It is good because I do tend to look at your organisation as, you know, doing a good job in difficult circumstances and let you get on with it. So quite good to hear that. Couple of questions, if you could answer them, and they're not meant to be negative questions. Obviously, it's important. I mean, Westminster Government are now impressing on how people have to get back to work. I don't know how bad the situation is, but I just wondered, well, I mean, the figures are remarkable, the people you've helped to get into work. What sort of proportion of, what you might have called industrial jobs, which are less and less in our economy, unfortunately?
Yes, we work with businesses across all sectors, you're absolutely right. The landscape has changed significantly, so the percentage of industrial jobs is a lot less. We see high levels of construction jobs, for instance. Care is quite prevalent. There's more demands in hospitality, for instance. And other service industries, and in recent years we've delivered bespoke programmes to work with the logistics industry and upskilling people to move into HGV, PCV opportunities in response to the shortage that they've been. So I suppose in summing up, there's no industry sector that's off the table. What we're really looking at is what is the aspirations of the customer that's coming through our doors, what are their transferable skills, and how can we work with them to get the relevant certifications to allow them to move into sustainable employment.
Although, I mean, you cover a large area. I'm from a rural, remote area ward. Do you get specific problems with lack of bus services? Just that a bus service that SBT ran for 40 years, specifically to be able to get people to work in Lanark and beyond, and they decided that they have to knock off the last bus of the day, which was at 6 o'clock. So that service is now no good for people wanting to get to work. Maybe it's a very minority issue, but I wonder what you thought about that. But you just touched a nerve there with, one of your items and one of the things you said, and that was on convictions. I mean, is that a serious issue that you find? And you mentioned getting people into HGV and PCV, where they're supposed to be of good repute. I just wonder if you had any comment. I mean, as it happens, I mean, I have a former driver who's hoping to get back into work when he's made free again. I don't think he'll find it easy. So if there's any issues on lack of certain, bus services, and then how convictions affect people getting into work. Thanks.
Thank you. The transport links within the rural area has been a long-standing issue, which I'm sure that you will all agree. What we've been able to do over the years, and it's more the education piece with employers and working with them. So what we've been able to do, specifically where you're highlighting there's a lack of bus services or there's a reduced service, is to work with the employers to say, look, we have the ideal candidate for you, but rather than them being a 9 till 5, we perhaps need that to be a 10 till 5 or a 10 till 6, and we look to link it up with the available transport. We also speak to employers, particularly construction's a really good example, where they are working across different sites, and if we have people local to the area, that they can effectively maybe have a buddy that picks them up at a centralised point. Now, I appreciate that doesn't solve the issue for everyone, but we do what we can, because, as I said at the start of this, it really is about the sustainment. It's not just about putting a person into a job, and obviously transport has a significant part of that. What we tend to find as well is that for some people, they have aspirations to obtain their own licence and stuff like that, but because of the situation they find themselves in, they can't afford that, and by simply being able to secure employment, they're then able to pay for lessons and obviously look at other modes of transport transport to get them to employment. With regards to your second question around the convictions, we work with all clients. As I said, that was merely a snapshot of some of the barriers. You're right to highlight, depending on the industry sector and depending on the nature of the conviction, it can prove problematic for the individual, but we're very much open-minded. There's certain things that industry sectors just simply can't accept because of the nature, but what we would do is work with the individual to understand. We would support them in terms of the disclosure piece to the employer, and we would ultimately be promoting the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act to try and support them into work. So certainly if you have someone that resides or is going to be residing in your ward, then I would absolutely encourage you to point them in our direction, and we'll see how best we can support them.
So I'm just going to say thanks very much for that. That's good. And maybe come and ask you other questions another time. Thank you.
Thanks. Got Julia, Councillor Marsh, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm wondering if you could explain a little more whether there's a relationship between the DWP and centre and yourself, or are referrals coming from those places and potentially even from schools? I'm thinking about, you know, Christmas leavers and young people where you know, the later stage of school isn't suiting them, or they're not getting as much as they could from that. But it sounds very much from what you've said that you know, your people come to you by choice. But is there a referral system, and what is the sort of relationship like if it is the DWP?
Hi, yes, thank you. We do have an established referral routeway, so referencing DWP specifically across South Lanarkshire, we have a system set up whereby they can directly refer participants into us. Similarly, our relationship with the various partners throughout South Lanarkshire, we get lots of referrals from them, and also we get people that walk into our offices on a daily basis. Most encouraging though is probably around 30% of our referrals come from word of mouth and through our social media activity and stuff like that. Again, which demonstrates the impact of the service that we're delivering, and that word is getting out there and other people want to access the support.
Thanks, Nicola. Julia, is that fine for you?
Just a supplementary, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Chair, that in terms of the DWP and the job centre, obviously that sounds like a great support to the services they're providing. Do they contribute towards your funding for that?
That's a really good question, Julia. Actually, in years gone by, I have to say at different times, we have accessed funding through DWP, but obviously the recent shift by government to route everything through the local authorities under No One Left Behind means that the vast majority of our funding comes from South Lanarkshire Council. If I could just also add, Julia, sorry I never answered it in the previous questions, you asked about young people in terms of the referrals. There is specific mechanisms in place, things like 16+ meetings which happen in schools with the council to look at potential destinations for young people. South Lanarkshire Council Aspire Services provide that support to 16 to 18-year-olds post-school in order to support school leaver destination achievement. But similarly, what happens is some of those young people will come to us purely because they have had a friend that has been supported through training, has a really good experience, has moved into work, and we would look to support them that way. But predominantly your 16, 17-year-old school leavers would go in through Aspire Works.
Thanks, Nicola. Ross Gowland, thanks.
Thanks. My question was also about referrals as well, so I was taken a little bit by what Councillor Mars said. Do you get many referrals from MPs or MSPs or local councillors? Because I just wonder if you have any statistics for that, because I feel like as a local councillor I would normally refer people to money matters, but I actually think your service will be more of a long-term employment support to help people working with other stakeholders as well. And I'm not sure whether a lot of us necessarily would be the first port of call to refer us to you, but I actually think it would be your support service would be quite good.
I suppose I would probably sum us up as a bit of a one-stop shop. I touched on obviously the partnerships and the work that we do. So you talk about referring to money matters. We would bring them in anyway to do things like better off calculations to ensure that it's the right thing for the individual. But you're getting that more holistic approach, that wrapped around support in terms of the personal development and all of that. In terms of the referrals from MPs, we don't get many approaching us directly to say, can I refer this person? But I don't doubt through obviously some of the feedback that comes back to us through the participants, some have came to us because it's been highlighted within their community settings, within their constituencies, etc., that this type of support is available to them.
Just can I ask, was it mentioned who you were funded by? Did you mention? I think it's the council, but was
Predominantly, yeah, predominantly South Lanarkshire Council, and the funding sits within community and enterprise.
Right, okay. That's great, thank you.
Thanks, Nicola. I know that I do follow you on Facebook, and this morning I did notice that you had another good news story from somebody who had got their forklift licence through yourself, which is absolutely wonderful, and it's really nice to see those stories on Facebook. So if any of the councillors follow Facebook, follow Roots to Work South, and then start sharing it so that your community see that they're there to help if they're required. Thank you very much for your presentation. I don't think I've got no further people wanting to speak to you today, so you can leave if you want, but thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, thank you. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the Common Good Update Report, pages 7 to 14, and we'll invite Graham Booth to speak to the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the Lanark and Biggar Common Good Funds, and Section 6 details the financial position for the year ended 31st of March 2024, with the audited accounts for the Lanark and Biggar Common Good accounts forming part of the Council's accounts that were approved at the Risk and Audit Scrutiny Committee back in September. Appendix 1 to the report shows at the end of 2023-24 the balance invested in the Council's loan fund for Lanark and Biggar is £301,000, and Table 1 provides the detail across the two accounts. Section 7 provides an up-to-date position including the planned maintenance and committed projects for the Lanark Common Good Fund, and the balance invested in the Council's loan fund is £276,000, and as well as those cash balances, the Lanark Common Good account also holds assets, and they are detailed in Appendix 2 for information. A summary of the income and expenditure for 23-24 is shown in Table 2. Section 7.4 notes that the payments to other bodies costs incurred during the year were for the Lanark Shed Master Plan of £55,000, and that project was funded from a contribution of capital funding from the Council. At sections 7.6 and 7.7, we're noting the two commitments against the planned maintenance budget for 24-25, and they are for the toll booth roof water ingress and fence repair at Cleghorn Road, totaling £11,500 between the two of them. And at section 7.8, we're also outlining the other projects that have been approved by the Finance and Corporate Resources Committee, and a budget of £60,000 has been approved for Lanark Loch car park repair, and also £10,000 for the installation of a gate required at Drove Road Path. In addition there's further information on the approved contribution from the Common Good to the cost of the Conservation Accredited Architect to identify areas requiring repair at St Nicholas Church Tower, and that project is currently delayed until the joint project with the church can be taken forward, which is hoped to be early in the new calendar year. Moving on to Section 8, provides an up-to-date position for the Biggar Common Good Fund, and there the balance invested in the Council's loan fund is £25,000, and there is little expenditure incurred by the bigger common good account other than the charge for the administration offset by the investment income received, and there are no other committed projects to note. Sections 8.4 to 8.8 provide details on the status of Biggar Public Park and the golf course in relation to the longer term financial sustainability, and the review of the titles there has concluded that the law relating to the common good will apply to this area, and if the council is considering any proposed changes of the land, then it would need to undertake a community consultation as required. At section 9, there's provides information on the consultations on the common good assets, and there's currently no consultations, new lease arrangements or the changes of use to note. I would then refer committee back to recommendation in section 2 of the report that the background information and update on the Lanark and Biggar common good funds be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. I'll note that report.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, comments from anybody? I would just like to welcome, obviously, the repairs that are getting done for the toll booth, the park at Melbourne Hall, and the car park at Lanark Locker is desperately needing done. So it's nice to see that's on the list now. I don't see any other questions, Graham. So, oh, Ralph Barker, thanks.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for that report. It's a little bit quick. I just wondered, the bit about, well, bigger common good, about lands with the golf course being inalienable. I just wondered what, what sort of effect that has. I'm just trying to see, is it somewhere in 8? Yeah, 8.6.
Okay, Graham, thanks.
Yeah, I can come in at just at 8.6, yeah, in terms of, yeah, the treated as inalienable. Really, the point I was trying to focus on there was that law relating to common good will apply to this area, including, as I say, if the council was considered any proposed changes. So as I say, it's deemed that yeah, the common good law would apply in that case, just in terms of that. So it's just the way that's kind of treated there for that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean to say there can never be a change, but it has to be with consent. Thanks.
Sorry, yeah, just to clarify, no, it's not that there can never be, it's just in terms of that and that, the kind of consultation and everything around that, they just would all have to be required for that. That's just kind of to enforce that fact.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Richard Lockhart.
Chair, my question, if you go to page 10, the top of page 10, I've got two questions, if I may. The first one relates generally to points about the costs and how we control these costs and how we can challenge procurement. My only reason for this is I did challenge the gate-required Drove Road path with Jackie, and I thought it was high simply because I know the business, if you like, of metalwork, and it turns out that apparently the actual price is nearer to half what is quoted. Now, I know nothing else about things like the church tower, but I just worry, or I need encouragement, if you like, that the quotes that we are getting are, if you like, at a level which are genuinely competitive and not just handed out to people who happen to have, have the ability to quote. I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm a bit nervous that the Poor Old Common Good Fund is asked to pay for quite a lot, and I want comfort that it's actually paying the right amount. And the second one is part of the same question, which is really the church tower. This is an ongoing pain, and it's going to cost the common good a huge amount of money over the next few years. If it's going to have to be washed and cleaned, never mind all the other work done over the next 5 years. I would love to find a way to get rid of that. I really would. Thank you.
Well, thanks for your questions, Richard. I'm not sure everybody would share your view about getting rid of the church, but anyway, Graham, do you have an answer for the other questions? Thanks.
Yeah, just in terms of the cost and charge, I appreciate that, just in terms of the challenge around there in the quotes we're getting. And yes, I will kind of liaise with our procurement department around that, just in terms of you know, to ensure that is value for money, like you say, in terms of the common good fund is picking up, just in terms of, you know, all these different costs, and it's ensuring we get value for money around that, and the monitoring of the costs to make sure they are in line with the allocations that we're setting aside for them as well. But also appreciating that you, in terms of that, if there's an approved budget there, that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that that's the full amount of that's been spent, and that we're challenging that we're getting everything around that. So that would be picked up as a monitoring of the costs as we're going forward. But in terms of, you know, particular cases, in terms of when we're going out for procurement and things like that, as I say, all that's kind of picked up as part of that process, and I'll consult with our procurement colleagues around that just as we go through that process.
Thanks, Graham. Does that answer your question, Richard?
Yeah, well, it does. I just feel that we need to keep an eye on it. That's all, because the Common Good Fund is a limited amount of money, and I always feel that we've got to be very careful with it. That's all. As regards the St. Nicholas's Church, of course, no one's going to answer that question, but it really is an inordinate amount of money to be spent on one object, if that's the way of putting it, over a number of years, and we seem to have got ourselves stuck with it. But I really do think we should, A, be looking at whether we should find some way of divesting ourselves of this to the council itself, or another way of doing a treatment which doesn't require someone to turn up every year and wash and clean it and so on and so forth. And that may be something we have to deal with Historic Scotland. But it just seems a very large amount of money coming out for one single location.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, so I don't see any further questions, so I'd like to thank you for your report, Graham. Oh, no, fine. Thank you, and you may go now, thanks. Thank you. Move on to item 5, which is the community grant applications, pages 15 to 18, and I'll invite Carol to speak, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a standard report submitted in respect of the community grant applications. We have 5 applications for consideration today, and a summary of the financial position is provided in section 5 of the report. If we maybe want to deal with the 2 applications that have declarations of interest first, and then allow the members back in and deal with the rest. So if we could deal with application A, Councillor Mars, could I ask that you leave the meeting, and we'll invite you back in once it's dealt with? Okay, I can confirm Councillor Mars has now left the meeting. So application A is Kirkfield United Football Club. The purpose of the grant is entrance fees, equipment, administration and publicity costs. Total eligible grant applied for was £1,000, and the recommendation is £300, Chair.
Can you just remind us, Carol, why it's 300 and not the normal 60%?
It's a
Thanks.
sporting organisation.
Thank you. So I would agree 300. Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, can we invite Councillor Marsh back in? She's not. Is that her here? No. Okay, that's Councillor Mars back with us now. So if we can move on to application C. Councillor Gowland, could I ask you to leave whilst we deal with this one? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chair. So application C is Rigside and Douglas Valley Senior Citizens Community Golf Group. This is a start-up grant, Total eligible applied for is £420, and the recommendation is 300 as it's a start-up.
Thank you, Carol. I would agree that. Have we got a seconder? Eileen, you want to put your mic on?
Picking that up. Am I in the wrong one? We'll see. Oh, I was looking at the Scottish people's thing. Right, sorry. That's fine. Aye, I'll second it, fine. I was looking at the wrong one there.
Thank you. And we'll just bring Councillor Gowland back in. Okay, thank you. We now have Councillor Gowland back in the meeting. So if we can move now to application B, which is the Scottish People's Welfare Committee, Douglas branch. Purpose of the grant is outing, entrance fees, administration and publicity costs. Total eligible £770 and the recommendation is £390.
Carol, can you just remind us why it's 390 in this one?
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay, so we had 350, which is the maximum for outing and entrance fees, and 60% of the £65, which was the admin and publicity costs, rounded up to our nearest £5, comes to 390.
Thanks, Carol. I would agree that.
Agreed.
Thank you. On you go, Carol. Thanks.
So we're on to application D, which is Abington Community Development Group. Purpose of the grant is equipment and materials. Total eligible is £1,000 and the recommendation is 600, which was 60% of what was asked for.
Thank you, Carol. I would agree that amount.
Agreed.
Okay, and application F is 5 platoon Scots Guards. Sorry, Councillor Logan, you want to come in?
Me? No. Oh, have I put that on?
Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, so application E is 5 platoon Scots Guards, Lanark Army Cadet Force. Purpose of the grant is equipment. Total eligible grant applied for is £486 and the recommendation is £295, which was 60% rounded up to the nearest £5.
Thank you, Carol. I would agree that amount. Not seconded. Sorry,
Second.
I see Eileen's got.
Question.
Okay.
I know when we're dealing with uniformed organisations, there's a set amount. Does this come under, I should have asked this at the start, I meant to, do they come under a uniformed organisation?
They would come under the uniformed organisation, but it's a maximum amount. It's not a set
No,
amount.
it's just
that
for
we
me
give.
to know, aye.
Yeah, it's not a set amount
no,
that we give to,
no,
it's
no.
just a maximum,
That's fine.
maximum award.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so that was agreed. So that's everything on the report. So I have no urgent business. So I'd like to thank everybody for their attendance today. But just stay on because it's a separate link, is it? There's a presentation about the IGIB, which will be, let's say, 5 to 3, and you have a link for that. So if you could join at 5 to 3, thank you.